Who is ready for raising an archer?
Me.
All right, we have Matthew Parmenter here with us, and what a pleasure it is to have you on the show with us.
It really is. I don't know why it's taken this long.
I know. I pushed the issue. She didn't want to have you.
Oh, yeah. That was it?
Yeah,
That was it. I was like, no, really, he's a good kid. And she's like, I don't know.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, so thank you.
Well, Matthew.
See? Already.
Yeah, Matthew is one of the top recurve archers, youth archers in Houston, if not in the nation.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have you on the show, kind of.
I love it.
Get to
He
know
goes,
you. Yep. Even though he did come in third place in his first national competition.
That was his first national.
First nationals with the first year.
At
he
11,
comes in third. Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I just don't bring that up.
We won't bring up that you got
Thank
beat
you.
by your little
It
brother,
was
but you know,
Painful memories right there.
he's all of a sudden in the corner rocking back and forth.
Yep.
Stupid third place.
To my brother who got second.
At my middle school, that's the only thing anyone ever remembers about my archery is that Ben beat me.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, because he made sure to tell a lot of people.
I don't. Why would he do that?
I have no idea.
See,
why would
being
they
an
do
only
that?
child, I wouldn't know anything about that.
So we have Matthew here. We want to kind of introduce him to everybody. So Matthew, tell us what discipline do you shoot? How old you are?
So I'm 16 years old, and I shoot Olympic recurve with a win bow.
How long have you been shooting?
I've been shooting for 5.5 years now, since this summer going into my 6th grade year. And that's been for the past 4 years now, 5 to 7 times a week. So,
All right, 5 to 7. That was one of the questions I was going to ask. And how did you get into archery?
So I got into archery because I was reading this book series called Ranger's Apprentice by John Flanagan. And it's this phenomenal series. And in it, the main character is this little boy who picks up archery, and it completely changes his life. It takes him all over the world. He gets to do the coolest things ever, and I just thought that was awesome. And so I really, really wanted to give archery a try. And actually for a while, for about 6 or so months, I was just shooting in my backyard with this little Genesis bow we had. And I got pretty good with it, actually. And
You
so
started with a compound.
I did start with a compound. Yep, a little bare bow compound. And so I asked my mom for my birthday if I could have some archery lessons, because I drove past Houston Archery every day on my way to school. I was like, hey, Mom, if I just went there, you could just drop me off and pick me up, and then we'd be all good. And so we did, and I got 4 lessons initially, and the first lesson, it was just phenomenal, and everything kind of clicked, and I understood it, and everything just kind of took off from there. And then within a couple months, I was competing, and then within a year, I'd set a state record and went on to nationals. Yep.
Awesome. So how are you and that book character alike now?
Oh, boy. Well, I don't know how alike we are, but I went back and read it a couple months ago, and I just cringed at everything I read because I was like, oh, that's not possible. That's not happening.
You didn't make those things happen?
No.
Nope.
Nope, no
Just
shot.
straight nope.
Did it say something like he was pulling like a 250-pound recurve bow?
It wasn't 250, but they said he initially started off with an 80-pound one. And
Of course, and that's what everybody starts off with.
I was like, oh, boy. Well, I think the Olympians are around 50. So giving a 14-year-old boy who's never shot before an 80-pound bow a recurve, not the best idea.
That is awesome. 80 pounds
80 pounds, yeah.
for recurve.
So I see your mom lots of places. Love her. What does she think about? Did she think that it was going to go this far?
Oh, not at all. There's no chance when I got into it that she was gonna that this was gonna take such a major turn and be such an integral part of my life. I mean, the first couple of lessons, it's just like, okay, he's good at this, but it's archery. So,
Right.
I was doing other sports at the time. I was playing basketball. I was playing baseball. And it's not really something when you get into it that you expect to be, so time-consuming and so competitive, really. Because it's just something you never hear about. You hear about people going in hunting, but with a recurve bow, I mean, that really doesn't happen that much. So you think of it more as just a recreational thing, kind of for fun. And then once you go to a couple tournaments, man, you just get hooked.
Yes.
So, I mean, it really took off from there. And I think after, I think there was one tournament, it was here actually at Texas Archery, one of the Siwats. I shot a 299 at 10 yards. And this was after maybe 6 months of shooting. And that kind of flipped a switch in me that I was like, all right, this is for real. I got a shot at doing something in this.
So you mentioned that you started out with a Genesis bow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talk about you shoot recurve now. So how did that transition happen?
Well, it was actually a very natural transition because I was shooting it just like you would a normal recurve, right? I didn't have a release. I didn't have anything so I was using 3 fingers, and it actually, for the initial first couple of lessons, it actually really helped me with my anchor because, I mean, I had been doing it for 6 months now, and without any coaching or anything like that, I had gotten a pretty solid form down. And so it actually translated really, really well over just to shooting recurve. Yeah.
What made you go to recurve?
Oh, that's all they offered.
Oh, that's all,
you
okay.
go up to Houston Archery, and if you're up there for lessons, you're shooting recurve.
You've got recurve or recurve.
You got recurve or recurve. Once you get past those initial wows, there are some people who shoot barebow, and then if you want to shoot compound, you have to specifically bring your own bow and talk to James and say, yeah, I'm going to shoot compound.
Okay.
Just held no appeal to me.
So right now, you had said you went to Seth at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Did you transition to a new coach, or are you still with Seth?
No, so I've had a bunch of coaches over the year. I've gone to Seth, I've gone to Coco, I've gone to Matt, and then I've been with James now for the past couple of years, and he's the one who really specializes on the top guys.
I think I know everyone except Seth.
Seth is James's brother or son-in-law.
Seth is James' son-in-law. Son-in-law.
Son-in-law, yeah.
Son-in-law, yeah.
Okay, he's family.
His family, yeah.
There we go, yeah.
What is your favorite thing about archery?
Oh, boy. There's a lot, but I think my favorite thing is just that every time I shoot, there's one shot during the 2 or 3 hours I'm shooting that I can pinpoint, and I can feel it at like 7 hours later when I'm going to bed at night and be like, oh, that was a wonderful shot. And after it, you just feel so good. I mean, I call it like my therapy, right? You only need one shot out of the 250 arrows you shoot just to be perfect. And it's such a good feeling knowing that, okay, I've been working so hard, but there's a glimmer of hope. There's,
yeah, there.
you know, I might
Practice sucked today, but there was that
there's
one
that
shot.
one shot, you know, and then
They weren't all bad.
exactly. Maybe you do it in a tournament. Maybe you have that one perfect shot in a tournament, and you're like, you know what? I just do that every time. And
I love that because what a mental thing right there. Because if everyone could just focus on the one arrow, that one good one, well, then you forget about all the rest of them. And I would think, I could be wrong here, but I would think that would translate into, what did I do to make that one?
Absolutely. I mean, before every shot, if I had a good shot the shot before, I'm thinking, that's like me. That's what I do. That's what the next one's going to be like. All right. Every time I have a good shot, because if you don't reinforce anything, it's a wasted shot. I mean, anyone can shoot 300 arrows and shoot relatively well, right? If they're practicing all the time. But what separates the really, really elite shooters from the guys who shoot a lot is being able to reinforce what they do and really focus on every shot. Because if you're just flinging arrows down to the target, you might shoot pretty well in practice, right? But you're really not going to grow from that. You might get a little muscle memory, but in a sport that's so much about your mental game, you're not gaining anything by just shooting and not thinking about anything. So every shot that I do well, it's all about reinforcing what I did and making the next shot like that.
How mature is that from a 16-year-old? I'm like going, oh my goodness, can we just record that one part and like hit replay for everybody?
Guess what? We did record it.
I did. What I'm talking about is like at home. Hey, Julia, here, listen.
So there was, you mentioned the word fling, and I remember one time talking with Michael Braden and talking about, I said something about flinging arrows, and he just like removed that word from your vocabulary, because that was when we were really, when we were first getting into it. because we don't fling arrows as elite archers.
Nope.
It's almost like a business when you show up for practice at this level. Once you get to that level, you have a game plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you were talking a little bit, you kind of touched on the mental part of it, but is there any type of mental management that you're going through, or is
that self-taught?
Yeah.
Well, so James, my coach, is very good about teaching mental stuff. But over all my years of archery, that has been what I've struggled with by far the most.
Most people do.
Yeah. It's the pulling through the clicker part, and the only part that I would love about compound is not having a clicker that I have to pull through, because it's such a mental barrier that I've had to break. And so every time I'm in practice now, that's really all I'm focusing on, right? I've got the form down. My good shots are about as good as it's going to get, but it's repeating those. And what helps me repeat those is having that strong pull through the clicker. And so what I have to focus on is when you get to such a high level and you need, there's such a small margin of error that you have when you're competing at the really elite levels. You feel like every shot has to be a 10, right? And you have to control every shot.
Right.
Everything has to be perfect, and you can't miss. If you shoot an 8, your life's over, and stuff like that. But
I thought that was your life was over.
Yeah,
when you shot an 8, I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, it just
If
ends.
Julia does, then she's like, yeah, that's.
And so
You see it on her face.
Tournament is
it's
over.
over. You're done. You're leaving, Mom. I'm getting out of here.
This bow is going to the trash as I walk out.
Exactly. Snapping the arrows. Yeah, but so what I've really been focusing on is it's so hard when you get to that level. You want to control everything about your shot. You don't want to let go. You want to control it into that 10 ring, but you really can't. You have to let go of everything you're doing. And so what I've been doing is I've been scoring rounds based on how many good pull through the clickers I've had, rather than good scores. And so it really helps you change what you're focusing on. And another thing I do is I'll think of when I'm shooting the target, anything in the red is a good shot, right? Anything in the red is a 10, okay? So what that helps you do is it helps you think of archery like you're shooting blank bail, right? Because anyone can shoot really well on blank bail, because you don't have to hit anything, right?
Right.
You just have your beautiful form. You don't have to worry about hitting anything, and you just have the most wonderful shots of your life. So when you're focusing on not shooting 10s, right, and you're just focusing on what you're doing behind the line in your form, you can actually end up shooting a hell of a lot better, because you're not trying to control everything and you're letting your processes work out themselves.
Yeah, I was looking at so Ryan was working on some stuff today, and it shows he shot a Vegas round, and there's a bunch of G's, O's, N's. Basically, I'm not sure what they all stand for, but good shot, okay shot. I think that's kind of what it is. Not a good shot. That's my guess. He'll probably correct me when he listens to this podcast. But that is part of, he grades every single shot.
Absolutely.
And that way he can say, okay, those was 3 great shots. And it may be great, probably great. Good is so looking at trying to execute a good round and see how many goods versus, or greats versus okay versus, meh shots.
Well, and that's the thing about shooting in practice, is when you're shooting in practice, you can get away with meh shots, right? Meh shots in practice, when you're at a high level, are going to be 10s, right? Most of the time. You might have a couple 9s in there, but meh shots in tournaments,
not
those meh shots that you shot in practice turn to crap in tournaments, right? With that added mental pressure. And so in practice, you really have to up your standards for what you're doing, because you have to realize, okay, there's no pressure on me right now. If I shoot an 8, no one's going to see, doesn't matter, right? So you have to try and put pressure on yourself, but it's never going to get to like what it is in the tournament. So you really have to improve your standards, not what you're scoring, but what your shots are like. Because I've shot really high, like 295 plus on the 40 centimeter target scores in practice, that I realize those aren't going to fly in a tournament. That's a 280 in a tournament, because I just crapped my way through that. None of those shots are repeatable in a tournament, right? I shot a couple X's that would have been 7s, right? And in tournament, those shots just aren't going to fly. So you have to hold yourself to a higher standard in practice.
So it's kind of like if a if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a noise?
Seriously?
So if you shoot an 8 in practice, did it really happen?
Did it really happen?
Did it?
Yes.
Did it happen?
Yes, it did. Oh, man.
All right. So Matthew, you're 16 years old. You are sophomore,
Junior in high school.
Junior in high school. So Matthew's a junior in high school. What's the plan?
So right now the plan is to go to A&M, shoot on their team because I want to major in mechanical engineering. So that'll be great. Go to A&M. Hopefully after that, go to one of the bow companies and start manufacturing and working on engineering new bows so I can continue shooting and then trying that out because I've always found it fascinating what they do to create their new risers and limbs. And I mean, you look at a pair of limbs and you really can't tell the difference between a $100 pair of limbs and a $900 pair of limbs. So I really find it fascinating, and that's something I would really love to do in the future. So,
How cool is that? Taking engineering and putting it into bow
Something
equipment.
that he loves.
Yeah, exactly.
oh, and the Olympics. I forgot to mention that.
It's like,
Oh, by the
okay.
way.
that went without saying though. So
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah, we had Venu from A&M come and do a podcast with us, and I was like, so what is the plan? He goes, the plan is the Olympics. Period. Like that is the plan.
Yep.
There's no other plan for him, and he's putting the time in to get
absolutely.
there.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal shooter.
Matthew, so junior in high school, what other hobbies do you have?
Man, I was just thinking about this. There's not a whole lot besides archery, but I do love going outside and just shooting the basketball around. That's like my total decompression where I don't have to think about anything.
Scrapbooking. He enjoys scrapbooking.
Yeah, that scrapbooking. I love working out.
He has a Cricut.
Exactly. Yeah.
He prints things.
Most of the stuff I do for hobbies is just stuff that clears my mind that I don't have to think about anything. So weightlifting is something I do, and I love it. Just shooting the basketball, going out with friends, obviously. But archery takes up a lot of time. I used to try and juggle, at least for part of this spring season, I used to try and juggle baseball and archery. And then I won a national championship and realized, okay, it's time to get rid of this baseball part. I was like, okay.
Yeah, baseball can be just as consuming as
absolutely.
as
Oh,
archery.
and expensive.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well.
We know that. In
I don't know.
archery.
I don't know. Archery's pretty expensive
Yeah,
too.
I think we got notched on that one.
Yeah, I'm not so sure which one's cheaper.
Yeah.
One thing you had mentioned, I think that's I want to point out is that when you got into archery, you had a coach right away, and I think that is something that's very important. If you're going to take it serious, that you have to have a coach and it has to be consistent. I say it has to. We have kids like
Chap.
So we have kids like Chap, which I'm not sure he has much. He's
Chap is the most phenomenal shooter I've ever seen in my life because he does it without a coach. And
right, it's amazing.
His dad who shoots barebow is the one who gives him coaching. But I mean, he's one of the. I mean, I think he made the USAT team this year.
He did.
Yeah, he was fifth in it, and
did he come in third in Lancaster? I mean,
second.
Second in Lancaster.
He has a very unconventional style of archery. Like you look at his form compared to like any of the Olympians, and you really don't see that many similarities. But then you watch him shoot, and it is the most consistent thing you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, okay, it really, as long as you can repeat what you're doing, archery is not a cookie cutter sport, right?
Right.
There's different ways to do it for everyone. And so if that works for you, that's what you need to be doing. But I shudder to think about how good he could be if he had the conventional coaching, right? Because he's a phenomenal shooter.
Really is.
He's so much fun to watch.
But Chap is an outlier.
Yeah.
You have, but the point is that I think that when you get into sports, just like baseball, just like basketball, you can't just not get any type of training.
Yeah, absolutely.
And archery is a little different because it's an individual sport. So just showing up and shooting with your buddies is not the same as having a coach that's walking you through the process. And then when you get to that elite level, you've mentioned it, there's a whole mental game, which, I grew up, I told you, I grew up playing basketball, played high school, played college, but it is not the same mental game as it is for archery, and it's hard to if you've never done it, it's very hard for you to understand what these kids and even adults are going through when they're shooting on these big stages, and it's one arrow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
There's nothing you can compare it to, really.
Yeah. Vegas, it could take, even for recurve, 2-3 bad shots out of 90 for the weekend.
Mhm.
You might as well just go home.
Yep.
And so it takes 90 good, great shots to be able to compete.
Yep.
I hit the mic.
He
For
gets all
emphasis.
excited.
For
Yeah.
emphasis, yeah.
I talk with my hands.
Yes, he
I
does.
do. I do.
Even when we don't record.
That's true.
Okay, so what is your favorite thing about archery?
My favorite thing is that one shot. You know, I think of it as therapy, right?
Right.
Is that one shot of just pure bliss. And I used to describe it as just like wonder, right? You shoot that shot and all your worries go away. You just want to live in that shot. I like whenever I shoot that shot for like 3 rounds after, whenever I'm walking down to the target, I'm going through the shot, just releasing like, ooh, that's what I wanted, right?
Yep. Awesome.
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't shoot a lot. I used to shoot more, but I just remember I remember those moments, and I've told people about it. Is you're at full draw and you're sitting there, and the dot or the circle or whatever it is just comes to the center, and then everything is like in slow motion where it just breaks, and you literally see that arrow go right where it was supposed to go, boom, and and there's times where you'd shoot, you don't even see the arrow go down there, and you're like, yeah, that sucked. But whenever I would see that, like you said, that moment when it was a perfect shot, everything lined up, and you saw it all the way to the finish.
Absolutely.
So, what is one thing that could make archery better?
So one thing that could make archery.
We were looking for raising an archer.
Yeah.
I was not.
Besides
and
more
live scoring,
besides more viewership of this podcast specifically, yeah. It needs a lot more attention at the collegiate levels and then past that, because I know a lot of phenomenal archers who get to college and they stop shooting because they want to focus on other things because there's no scholarships for it anymore. Like when my coach James was shooting, he got a full ride to Arizona State for 4 years. He got all the same benefits as any football player would. And then I think basically the year after he graduated, they took everything away, and it became not an NCAA sport. So it needs a lot more attention at the collegiate level, because there's some phenomenal archers out there who get to college and they stop shooting. And I've seen it so many times with people from my range, with people from across the country. And that's why you see there tends to be a big drop off from the cadet division at nationals to the junior division in nationals, because the cadet is all guys who are in high school who are going full force into archery, right? This is what they do. This is their life. I mean, a lot of kids do homeschooling for archery so that they can shoot 5 hours a day, stuff like that. And then you get to the junior division and you just think there's a difference in the skill level. It's almost like the top 5 from the cadet would be pretty close to the top 5 from the junior division, right? Because you get to college and you have to spend so much less time on archery because you just don't have the time, and you're not being rewarded for your time with archery besides what you're already getting, right? And there's places like A&M where you have teams, but you're not getting any financial aid or anything like that. So it's
not much.
No, really.
Not much.
Yeah. So really what archery needs is more helping guys who really have the talent. And that's one of the things with the American teams is in the past couple of Olympics, we haven't been doing super well, but you look at the Koreans, right? And everything for them is funded. They have scholarships going from high school and stuff, right?
Wow.
And everything is full ride in college if you're one of the guys, right? And they have specifically have colleges that basically cater to archery, right? And you look at these guys and you're like, they're phenomenal, right? Because they get that support from everywhere else. So it's really hard for us to compete with people like teams like the Koreans, because they have the support that we don't, and that's what we need.
And that's there was a book called Outliers. if you've ever read it. The first half is really good.
Is that your
I
new
didn't-
word?
I didn't care
Because
for.
you
Yeah, I don't care for
talked
this.
about chaps and outlier. Now
He
you
is.
get the book
He
with the
is.
outliers.
So outliers. The whole point was are there real outliers out there? And what it really came down to, they looked at specifically hockey, hockey in Canada, and so that they put out some of the top hockey players in the world, and they're like, why is that? Why is it the Canadians? Well, they looked at the kids that when they turned 8 years old, they all try out, and if you make the team, you go to 5 days a week. If you don't, you go to 1 day a week. The other thing they noticed, this is just a fun fact, was all of their birthdays are in January to March, April, are all the top archers. Well, guess what? When the year you turn 8, and we've seen this in like USA Archery and stuff like that, because depending on where your birthday falls, it affects you as, okay, a kid that was born in January versus a kid that was born in December. They're in the same division, same age class, but guess what? There's a year difference between them.
It is
so
a big difference.
The book was, there are no outliers. It's all opportunity. It's all, it could be random just because of your birthday. But I think you have a good point is that, if we want to take archery to that next level, and we have these athletes that are just, we believe can compete, we got to figure out how to get them into the right areas, right schools, right competitions. Because if you never went to nationals, you might not be where you're at, because you would only push yourself as hard as where you're at.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big thing, because I'm very blessed to have, there's a ton of really phenomenal recurve shooters, especially in my division in Houston. I think between me, Ethan Chan, Daniel Kim, and Chat Post, that's 4 guys in the top 15 in the nation. And so when we go to tournaments together, it's phenomenal to watch, right?
It is.
Because it's everyone pushing everyone.
And I'm normally on y'all's field, so
yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
I've watched y'all grow up, and it's flat out amazing.
And then practicing with Ethan and Daniel every day, it's everyone pushing everyone, because you're looking to your left and you're looking to your right, and you're like, holy crap, these are the guys I have to
I gotta
beat.
step it up.
Yeah,
They're
but
right on my tail.
exactly.
Who
'Cause
do they think they are?
you get better, you start shooting your 290s, your 290 pluses, and then you look over and Daniel's shooting them too. And you're like, all right, Daniel, I see you. But I mean, it's really a blessing to have those phenomenal shooters around you, because I mean, I look at you look at kind of the statistics of where the top guys are, and there's usually 2 or 3 from California, New Jersey, and Texas. Because when you're shooting in groups with other really, really phenomenal archers, that elevates your game to a whole new level.
Oh,
Absolutely,
I
you push
totally
each
agree.
other. Yeah,
Talent breeds talent.
that's right.
And the more you can push them, and that's the same that we're seeing, just Houston in general, maybe Texas in general, there is a lot of great archers that come out of Texas. And I think that Houston, I'm a little biased, but I think the Houston area puts out some amazing archers.
We really do.
And there's a lot of them that go to competitions around the country. So
Very competitive.
when we go, we notice, like, my thing is I really don't care where you're from, as long as you're from Texas.
As long as you're from Texas.
And you win.
We're friends.
As long as we see that star on your flag,
That's right.
best buds.
That's right.
Hey,
That's
check
right.
out my new judging shoes, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. All right. And then, we talked
1980 Colt asked for his shoes back too.
up. Turd. All right. So not only do we see the youth archers, but going along with that, we're seeing a lot of coaches who are shooting and competing from Texas, and they're making podiums as well. I really like seeing all of that. It's full circle.
It's awesome seeing all our coaches and out there competing, helping our archers. I mean, going to a competition at a national level and seeing friendly faces, or even a coach. I just remember there was a kid that was having issues. I was judging. I look over, I see this guy, Sean, from the red team. This kid's not on the red team. I was like, Sean, can you help? He's like, I'm on it. And he just went over there and made sure he took care of the kid. It was something loose that he tightened up and put him right back out there because he didn't have a coach. That's what's beautiful about this sport compared to other sports.
It is the friendliest sport of anything, because every once in a while you'll get a few bad apples, and
That's everything.
That's everything.
Yeah.
But I've really never seen any any cursing, anything like that. You're always helping the guy next to you. In every one-on-one match, you know, when you're done, you shake the guy's hand, you look him in the eye, you say, man, that was a great match. You shot really well. I've never heard any bad talking, anything like that. Whenever anything's broke, you got 7 guys around him trying to help, trying to fix it, reaching into their own quivers like, here, I got you.
Yeah.
Here, I've got something for you. Try this. This might work. Everything like that. It's phenomenal. Yep.
It's funny that you mentioned that because Ryan, he carries like 3 springs for his rest, and he gives those out like candy, it seems like. So he'll come up and go, hey, I need some more springs, because that's like his thing. So his spring is broken. So he's like, oh, here's the spring to your hamski. And I think that's kind of what this sport's about. Is
We were at Nationals last year at College Station, and Julia's spring, something happened with her spring, and I don't even know who came up with, but somebody, wasn't us, someone came up with a spring, and the A&M team repaired her bow right there on the spot.
Same for there was a archer from UT that came in that their lizard tongue
yes,
broke.
I remember that.
One of the Aggies had a part, went ahead and they fixed it and had
and
them
I went
back
and
out
grabbed,
there.
I want to say it was Trenton, but I went and grabbed, no, because that wouldn't be.
It was compound.
Yeah, it was compound. But I did. I went and grabbed somebody from, I was like,
Connor,
do you have an extra one? And then also at Joe at Nationals, I on my field, and I grabbed our coach Joe. I grabbed him. There was a kid that his peep popped out or something, and I was like, "Hey, do you have something that can fix it?" And he grabbed 2 other guys, and they went to work on it and fix that kiddo to where he could get back out there and shoot. But we talk about this a lot, that it's an archery family.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, yeah, you're competing against each other, but at the same time, it's a family. What do you need? Hey, we'll find out how to get it.
And the thing about it is, archery, it's a much smaller community than, say, baseball or anything like that. So the guys you're seeing at tournaments are the same guys you're going to see at the next tournament.
That's right.
And so it really helps when you're developing these bonds with guys and you're making friends, because all right, I'm going to be stuck with these guys for the next 5 years. So
that's true.
We might as well become friends, because if we start, if there's a feud somewhere, I'm going to have to see him every couple of weeks.
Exactly.
So,
and, like with Julia, it's tough for her because it'd just be she and I that go to a tournament. And, we don't judge on the same field as where our kids are. So she's off by herself. And she has made friends, and the friends, of course, have parents who are, hey, is your mom here? Are you by yourself? Do you need anything? Can I get you a drink? Can I get you, do you have snacks? And I mean, that just completely come in as her parent.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't asked or anything, and I'm very thankful for sure.
I've gotten a lot of that. In fact, at one of the last nationals, I was shooting. I mean, it was outdoor, and so I broke a knock. I hit one of my arrows, broke a knock, and I came back and I'm fixing it, and one of the moms comes up to me. Never seen her before in my life. Don't know who she is. I assume she's one of the moms of one of my friends, right?
Safe sport, no.
Hopefully not. But she comes up to me. She's like, Matthew, do you need me to run to the Lancaster booth and get you more knocks? I'm like, no, I've got them right here. But thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so
then,
somebody out there knows you.
Absolutely. And then snacks all the time. Every mom is coming around offering snacks. I remember I was shooting against
Moms are good at that.
Absolutely. I was shooting against Christian Stoddard, who's the top guy in my division 2 years ago. And I was beating him 4-0, and we came back, and it was a one-on-one match. So it was just me. My mom was off in the back watching because she didn't have the preferred seating, and it was just me, Christian, and his dad. And his dad was like feeding him, and he was like, "Matthew, you want a bag of pretzels?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely, I would love some, thank you." And he was pulling stuff out of his bag, grabbed me a Gatorade. It's just really, we talk about how the kids are phenomenal, but the parents are really, really great too, because it's the kids that learn from the parents. So when you have those bad parents who are really getting a lot more nasty about it, it's going to translate over to the kids. But when you have all these parents who are really, really supportive about everything, that really shows with their kids. So
you'd mentioned the parents being great. I want to mention that when you look at, because we're we judge everyone. When we see
Scott.
the compound parents versus the recurve parents,
is there a difference?
oh, there's a huge difference.
Is there a difference? Come
Compound,
to the compound side when you're
compound
not shooting.
parents are kind of quiet. They kind of they're I say they're reserved, they're a little further back. You know, they don't seem to get as involved.
Oh yeah.
Recurve, if there was, this was, you know, a few years ago
so
when
beg to
they
differ.
allowed the parents to be on the
Oh
line.
boy, that was awful.
Yeah,
On
there would
the
be
line?
that there were the coaches line, so
Oh,
you could
okay. Ugh.
anybody could be the
Yeah.
coaches, and so they would have binoculars all the way. You couldn't even get through, and so they're moving them, and it's just it was crazy compared to the compound versus the recurve, because the recurve has they all have their binoculars and all that, or not binoculars, but their scopes and all that stuff.
So that made me think of something. What do you think about these archers who are up on the line and after every shot they look back?
So I used to be that kid.
Like he goes.
So that was me,
Deep
because
breath.
and it's really weird though, because my parents know nothing about archery. They're
We discussed
they're
that.
really hands off, which I love. But I'd have a bad shot and I look back and my mom would just be there and she'd give me the smile, give me the thumbs up. And I mean, that's what she could do.
Yeah.
And that's,
Did it irritate you?
Oh, absolutely.
I
Well,
thought
because-
so.
That's it made me so mad, but it helped.
But that, yeah, okay. Because that Scott says when I go to a tournament and I'm not judging and I'm not doing live broadcasting or anything, that's what I'm supposed to do is just give the
Give them
thumbs
thumbs
up.
up. But
Wendy's nonverbals are really strong.
yeah.
Come on, you
I don't know
can't
what you're talking
even.
about.
You just gave me a look.
But
You know exactly what she's thinking.
I did definitely
Can't
grow
hold back.
out of that a couple years ago, but I see kids now, especially at the national tournaments when you're shooting outdoors, every shot it's looking back at their parents trying to figure out, you know, which way do I move my sight? Is it this way? Is it this way? And what really cracks me up is the kids who do that the most tend to be the ones who aren't very competitive. It's the kids who are all top 20, they're not looking back, you know.
No, you're in control.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
in control. When your parent is telling you what you need to be doing and trying to tinker with your bow for you and trying to tell you where to move your sight, you can just look at them without ever having them seeing them shoot, and you'd be like, oh, I mean, you're not going to win.
So we try to step away and let our kids do their own thing, and I think they prefer that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just for instance, the last couple of days, and I've gotten to where if I'm going to be where Julia is and she's practicing, so if we're practicing at the house, I go outside just because of safety reasons, because there are stray dogs that come around
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's not going to shoot the dog, you know, but they attack other dogs around us. So I go out there, but now like, crud. Okay, so I get on my phone and I play a game, and I feel so guilty because I'm not right there in it and everything. And then when I do start watching, I catch myself. I mean, these last 2 days. Okay, well, if I was shooting, I would do one click to the right. And she goes, I just did that. Okay, you're doing a great job. Then come my 2 thumbs up. Then I'm like, go back to my game so I don't interfere anymore. But I don't know. That bothers me. Saturday, we were outside. I graded papers outside while she's shooting, trying to keep from, interfering.
Well,
But-
it's really interesting you say that, because now that I've gotten my own car and I can start driving, and I've been going to all these tournaments on my own without my parents there, and it's so much more freeing, because when you're going to Siwats and you're driving an hour and a half to them, you put extra pressure, or maybe you're not putting it, but you feel like there's extra pressure on you because your parents are there watching you, and they're taking time out of their weekend to come watch you and drive, an hour and a half both ways to come watch you. And then it's like a 3-hour tournament, and it's really boring, and you feel like there's so much pressure on you. All right, I got to perform so mom and dad don't feel like this was a wasted weekend.
right.
And so it's been so much more freeing now, because I can go to tournaments and I can say, you know what? There's no one here I need to perform for besides myself. I can shoot. If I have a bad shot, you know what? It's over. It's over. I especially these really local ones where there's really not a whole lot of competition, and you're more just the practice of shooting a tournament. It's really nice just being able to shoot, for yourself, right? So I know parents, it must be so hard to let go, but
and it's like breaking my heart
it must
over
be
here.
so hard. But I don't know how Julia is about it, but I'm so much happier without my
She
parents there.
says that she likes it when I'm judging. And she's off over to herself. And so my husband he even got on to me. He's like, no, you've got to be there. You're going to these judges. She has nobody there for her. Nobody making sure that she's fine. Nobody if something goes wrong. So I even felt guilty in that area that I wasn't there for her as support. But she does say that.
Well, I think Matthew mentioned it. There's so much support.
Yeah.
Like if she needed something, trust me,
There's plenty.
Someone
there
would be
is somebody there, and they will take it. Like, Julia, I think you need to eat. They would eat. If you said, Julia, I think you need to eat, what do you think?
Fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I ate 8 hours ago.
That's it. I've had that exact conversation with my parents where my mom says, Matthew, eat this. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And then Cindy comes over and says, Matthew, you should eat something. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
Oh my gosh, Cindy can walk over and Julia will do whatever. If Cindy
probably
says, stand on one tiptoe and stick your tongue out, she goes, okay.
That makes sense. I'll do that.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, thank you for joining us
Hold
on the
on.
show.
I have one question. One more question, Matthew. What do you want everyone to know about you that people don't already know about you?
Oh, boy. That's a tough question.
Wow, way to put him on the spot.
know.
No, I
tried
told
to
him
say-
ahead of time.
She told me about this ahead
See?
of time, and I've been thinking about it.
He's like, oh, crap. Thank you. Scott was ending this.
I know. Scott was good. She
No.
caught me right at the end here.
You thought you were scot-free.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
Forever.
Year and a half. She's been waiting a year and a half for that
It
opportunity.
just came to me.
Boy, I don't know, because it almost feels like I live two different lives. I live my archery life, and then I live my school life, and they have absolutely no correlation with each other. So, my archery life, it's like everything I do with my school, I don't bring any of it to archery. When I'm at archery, I'm in a completely different world, and when I'm at school, I actually bring a little bit of archery into it. But I remember there was one day in English class where I was practicing my anchor under the desk. And my teacher just was watching me from behind, trying to figure out what I was doing. But it's almost like I have, two different sets of friends, two different sets of everything, timelines, stuff like that. So
let's put it in the archery arena, because most likely, unless you get all your friends to watch,
that's true.
it's going to be archers. So maybe even a younger archer that is listening, or the parent of a new archer. What is something that, because we're going to see you for years to come,
Hopefully.
and you shoot nationally, you're on the national stage constantly.
Mhm.
So as almost like a celebrity, what's something that people don't know about you that you want people to know about
That I
you?
want people to know about me.
Yeah, let's see. I narrowed it down for you.
Okay. that does change my answers.
We're not
a little
talking
bit.
about all the speeding tickets.
Oh yeah. I really, really rely on my family a lot because I have 5 siblings.
Wow, I did not know
Mhm.
that.
Yep, I have 4 brothers and a sister, and
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So a lot of people know about Ben because he used to shoot,
Right.
but he stopped a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
But there's Jack, Bridget, Luke, Mark, Matthew, Benjamin. So they're my rock. I absolutely love them. Any problems at all, I can always go to any of them. And they're at different points in their life. Jack's off at U of Chicago getting his MBA. Bridget's teaching in Norman, Oklahoma. Luke's at the seminary in Dallas. Mark's at the University of Tulsa. So everyone's at a different point in their
Wow.
life. So if there's ever anything I need, they've got it all covered. They've done it all before. I can always go to any of them for help, and I absolutely
Get
love
that
that.
huge support group. then.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, well, you and I
There you
both
go.
learned something right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, are we done?
I guess so.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Matthew, for
Thank you,
joining us. I know you
Matthew.
had to drive an hour to come here.
That's okay.
We appreciate you coming and,
Yes.
and hanging out here.
On a school night at that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So we'll catch you guys at the next target.
And that is all for this episode of Raising an Archer.